Fast-growing fire scrambles air support down to a town in southwest Colorado. An HOA gets involved in the Marshall fire rebuild to say, stop. A comment made to Next prompts a state ethics investigation of an elected official.
Who are you?
I'm Marshall from 9 News.
Okay, all right, so obviously you're a misconstrued journalist.
A sign of change in the hood formerly named for a Klansman mayor. And this, whatever this is, next. There's a new fire growing quickly outside Pagosa Springs in southwest Colorado tonight. It's burning through about an acre a minute. The updates over the last few hours have not been encouraging. 10 acres, then 50, then 300. The air support immediately called in to help gives you some idea of the seriousness. 5 air tankers and several helicopters are now assisting firefighters on the ground in Mineral County. The fire is about 5 miles from the small airport in Pagosa. Some homes nearby are evacuated. San Juan National Forest Rangers say the Plumtaw fire has burned 323 acres, their last estimate. When a far-right political figure came to Colorado to campaign for his favorite candidates, our political guy Marshall Zellinger had some questions. MyPillow guy Mike Lindell's answers about how he has showered hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal help on Secretary of State candidate Tina Peters, those answers have led to a new ethics investigation. Here's Marshall.
Who are you?
I'm Marshall from 9 News.
The questions MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell answered for me last month led to a new complaint against Republican Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters.
Mr. Lindell, how much have you raised for Tina Peters' legal defense fund?
I just put all the money in myself.
And how much is that?
I don't know. I probably put in 3, 4, 5, maybe $800,000 of my own money.
That admission has led to another ethics complaint against Peters, claiming she's violating the part of the state constitution limiting gifts to elected leaders by utilizing an out-of-state legal defense fund with an $800,000 contribution from Lindell, and that all donor names and donation amounts must be publicly disclosed. Today, the Colorado Independent Ethics Commission agreed to investigate this complaint. Colorado law also limits how much a person can give an elected leader each year to no more than $65, unless they're a relative or close friend. Last month, Lindell admitted that when Peters flew on his plane to his cyber symposium last year, he had never met her. That's why this was not a dumb question.
If you just met her, you weren't a close friend of hers.
I just met her that day. Another dumb question.
Following our reporting on Lindell's own words, Peters said she had no knowledge of Lindell paying for her legal defense. Then there was also this.
And we need that for people to support the Lindell Legal Offense Fund.
Mike Lindell's got this organization. Lindell Offense Fund is for supporting her in her legal efforts.
Last week at a forum for Republican Secretary of State candidates, the candidates were allowed to ask a question of each other. That led to this exchange between Peters and candidate Pam Anderson.
I'm asking about integrity. You know, when you are involved in something that actually defeats the honor and the integrity of the Republican Party.
I've never ridden on a private plane of a millionaire or hidden from law enforcement at their ranch either.
The new legal defense fund popped up after a separate ethics complaint against Peters earlier this year. That complaint was about a previous legal defense fund that was also not disclosing donor names and amounts. The website for that fund was taken down, and donations started to get encouraged for this out-of-state Lindell fund, which now we have another complaint that's being investigated.
I'm wondering, though, about the consequences in the end. I remember we extensively covered ethics complaints against former Democratic Governor John Hickenlooper. In the end, they found that he violated the rules and got a little slap on the wrist.
A little slap on the wrist, but it was still 2 times the amount of the benefit he received, and it wasn't that much. I think in the end it was a few $1,000s is what that amount was. That's why it's so important for Peters to be fighting this, because let's say Lindell really did $800,000 and the Ethics Commission finds, well, that was inappropriate, then she could be on the hook for $1.6 million. So you look at Hickenlooper, 2 times was only a few thousand, but he still got 2 times the amount of the benefit he received.
Oh, I bet the pillow guy is not happy he said that to you. You are so pesky. All right, thank you, Marshall. The Coloradan who launched an election rigging conspiracy theory got a high-level meeting at the U.S. State Department on January 6, 2021. The Washington Post is reporting today that Joe Oltmann of Douglas County was able to meet with an assistant secretary of state on the day that a pro-Trump mob attacked the Capitol. A judge ruled last week that Oltmann has not presented any evidence to back up his claim that Denver-based Dominion voting systems worked with Antifa to rig the election. The judge also wrote that the Trump team pushed Oltmann's theory, even though its own research found no evidence. It's curious why Oltmann would be meeting with higher-ups at the State Department at the time that Trump allies were discussing the potential of imposing martial law or redoing the election they lost. Because, of course, the State Department deals with foreign governments, not domestic stuff. An Oltmann ally, current Republican Senate candidate Ron Hanks, suggested at the time that foreign intelligence agencies could get involved to overthrow American democracy and to keep Trump in power. Some Marshall Fire survivors ready to rebuild are getting a not so fast from an HOA. Even when neighborhoods burn to the ground, HOAs remain to enforce style and design rules. Our Noel Brennan has the story.
We got some stuff coming up.
We'll take anything.
Spring flowers at least feel familiar.
And so, yeah, this was home.
On a dirt lot that no longer resembles home.
And then there was a long driveway that came out this way. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're at the close to the front door, sort of, in the scheme of things.
Seth and Nancy Goldman don't visit often since the Marshall fire.
It was a bad day. Pretty traumatic. Yeah.
But they committed to rebuilding here and were hopeful their homeowners association in Louisville would clear the path.
And they told us they would not stand in anyone's way, there would not be obstacles.
Their dream is a mid-century modern house.
With the mid-century slope lines.
Their architect drew up the plans.
The pitch of the roof is supposed to be, 3 inches to every 12 inches?
Yeah.
But the roof pitch the Goldmans pitched is too low.
There's just an email that said declined. Pitch is supposed to be 312, yours is 212, declined.
An attorney for the Coal Creek Master Association says the HOA consulted with builders and architects to come up with the standards, which they shared with the Goldmans.
We talked to the architects, obviously, and said, what happened here? And they said, well, we were under the impression that was the guideline, and there was flex room.
The HOA sympathizes, but isn't budging an inch.
This situation exemplifies the power and authority of an HOA board.
Stan Harincevich with Colorado HOA Forum advocates for homeowners who live in HOAs, and he already knows how this rebuilding battle ends.
It seems to be pretty black and white. Emotional, yes, but I don't think we can govern based on emotions.
But emotion is all the Goldmans have left.
I don't even know why they care about the pitch of our roof.
Their reality is still a dirt lot, and they dream of a home.
Yeah, we just want to get home. It's as simple as that.
For Next, I'm Noel Brennan.
The HOA gave the Goldmans and their architect a chance to meet with the board. They talked this afternoon over Zoom. The Goldmans told us no final decision was made. Starting 1 month from today, people getting a new phone number in Colorado could end up with the new area code, 983. 983. It's going to take some getting used to. Verizon customers got a text blast today letting them know about the new area code's launch next month. Apparently, Verizon spilled the beans ahead of a planned announcement on the date from state regulators next week. We first told you about this almost exactly a year ago. So we're supposed to run out of available 303 and 720 area code numbers by the end of the year. That's why 983 is being layered over. State regulators at the PUC say there are still some 303 and 720 numbers available. They didn't know the precise amount. Last year, pretty much all of the 303 numbers were gone, and there were about 500,000 720 number combinations left. So if you go to get a new phone number on or after June 17, you could still be assigned a 720 or a 303, but chances are you're getting a 983. Just a quick reminder, the next viewer pointed out that 983 spells out WTF on the keyboard. So if you get given a 983 number, your reaction will be entirely accurate. This is not litter. This is an environmental strategy in Aurora. The FDA gives initial approval for boosters for young children, just as Colorado's COVID positivity rate hits quadruple where it was in March.
She was the healer in that community that wanted to see our community come together as a collective.
And we remember the life and legacy of a woman who made it her mission to see that Denver's black children got the education that every kid deserves. next. Kids as young as 5 may soon be able to get Pfizer's COVID-19 booster shot. FDA announced today that it's cool with emergency use of that booster for kids 5 to 11. Shot's the same dosage given to that age group during the first run of vaccines. Now it's up to the CDC on whether to make a formal recommendation. Their advisors meet Thursday. Our statewide positivity rate jumped 2% in the last week. 8.8% of COVID-19 tests done in the state over the last week have come back positive. Highest that number has been since we are coming down from the Omicron wave back in February. The rise in the positivity rate this spring has been slow and steady. End of March, we were just under 3% positivity. We know that the Omicron subvariant that's making up the bulk of new COVID cases in Colorado is contagious. We also know, thankfully, it's less severe. That means fewer people winding up in the hospital with serious issues. And looking at our ICU bed capacity right there, 87% in use. When we were really worried about capacity, it was 95% in use. Jerry Grimes was a legend. She spent more than 40 years at the Hope Center, one of the oldest Black-led nonprofit early education centers serving children of color in Northeast Denver. The group's CEO passed away last week. Our Byron Reed shares her impact on our community.
Strong, bold, fierce, really connected to her roots. So I'm Cassandra Johnson. I work for Hope Center as their Chief Operating Officer. She has been with this agency close to 4 decades. So she started out like in a business manager position and then eventually took on the CEO president position. For the children, Mrs. Grimes, I mean, she would walk the halls and they knew who she was. She took a strong stance around racial justice, education justice, justice for children and adults with disabilities. I was there when she passed, and it was hard because you really see a loss, a legacy that is, yeah.
She became the executive director right around when my sons were going to Hope Center. My name is LaDon Sullivan, and I am a board member of the Hope Center. It was critical for them to be in a space that they saw other children who looked like them, and they had teachers and people, adults who cared for them, who looked like them. A tremendous loss for particularly the early childhood education community. I mean, she has been an amazing leader, and I would say even a trailblazer. I believe Mrs. Grimes' legacy is one of community involvement, of championing the voices that sometimes go unheard.
She's still very much alive. Her presence is still very much alive in community.
Why are there tires stuck in Aurora storm drains? A next viewer wondered, so we'll learn something together. Not the only odd thing you asked us about. This we can't explain, but it's still next. Want to check back in on that fast-moving fire outside Pagosa Springs. The San Juan Forest Rangers say that fire has burned 323 acres, about half a square mile. Andrew Weissman lives a few miles away, and that's the view from his backyard. The smoke plume has been getting taller and a lot more defined. There are mandatory evacuations for some homes in the area outside Pagosa. The National Weather Service says firefighters should be getting a break from the strong wind once the sun goes down. There's nothing more American than casting a ballot, and nothing more American than an election tie being decided by pure dumb luck. The Elk Creek Fire Department recently decided a board of directors election by picking a name out of a hat. Chuck Newby won. He got 179 votes, so did his opponent, Dominic Devaney. State statute says an election tie has to be broken in some form or fashion. How it's done is up to the jurisdiction. So there have been coin flips, drawing names from a bowl. A few years ago, an open seat for Cripple Creek City Council came down to high card wins. Each candidate drew a card. It was 10 of diamonds over 7 of clubs.
Toasty warm today with highs in the 80s. Now tonight, we've got evening thunderstorms. We've got a day with high fire danger and rain and snow in the forecast at the end of the week. This is springtime in Colorado. 84 today, almost 100 in southeastern Colorado. And tonight, it's all about the storms rolling off the foothills ahead of a weak shortwave that's dropping south out of Wyoming. Severe thunderstorm watch area in Nebraska and Kansas, but some of these storms could reach severe limits on the eastern plains tonight. It's been all about the wind and lightning, but some areas are actually getting a little bit of rain and a better chance for that tomorrow. Storm Prediction Center has us in the area where we could see a better chance of thunderstorms late in the day. But the bigger changes come on Friday. After high fire danger on Thursday, rain and snow coming in Friday into Saturday with cold temperatures come Friday afternoon.
The last I-70 signs for the neighborhood formerly known as Stapleton are gone. Taking down the name of the former Klansman mayor was not cheap. Almost $200,000 for the interstate signage alone. The two frontage roads along the Central 70 project have finally dropped the Stapleton name. So that used to be where you turn for Stapleton North Drive and Stapleton South Drive. The roads into the neighborhood, now known as Central Park, have been renamed 45th North Drive and 44th Avenue. CDOT replaced the signs over the interstate as well as the street signs themselves. All told, ran $191,000. Tonight's next question is basically, what the heck is this? Asked by Gabriel about these tires in a storm drain inlet in Aurora. Gabriel, the city tells us that the tires collect silt runoff from construction sites before it can get into the stormwater system. Cinder blocks are sometimes used for the same purpose. Isn't that weird? So that's on purpose. Aurora told us that they'll use those tires for erosion control, specifically on high traffic streets, because if a car happens to drive over them, that's no big deal. You hit a cinder block and it'll give your undercarriage a little how you doing. If you see weird stuff anywhere in our state and you're like, what's the point of that? We can learn about it together on the television. Send curious photos or videos or questions by email to next@9news.com. No pickup truck? No problem. A Colorado's classic solution to haul anything. Plus the feedback you dared me to read. Next. Top down, wind in your hair, washing machine, riding in the back seat. I don't know what it is, but it made us smile, so it's something that's not horrible. Scott was driving 287 on Broomfield on Thursday when he spotted some ingenious American transporting his washing machine in his Chrysler LeBaron. Cannot imagine that this method is recommended by the vehicle or washing machine manufacturer, but I didn't hear about a 10-car pileup on 287 caused by a flying washing machine, so I think he was probably successful. Look at that guy, living his best life. It's a guy, trust me, it's a dude, 100%. Send us anything that's not horrible. Snap a photo or video, email to next@9news.com. You can be like Scott and tweet at us using the hashtag #HeyNext. Greg Barman writes in to say he remembers in 1998 when the 720 area code was laid over 303. Greg says, people had a total cow. What? 10 digits? Why should we have to do that? We can't do that. It's too confusing. Greg says, yet somehow we all managed to survive. I don't know, Greg. Did we? We're not doing so hot. James Smith writes in with some very detailed feedback. You are hands down the most left-leaning, biased newscaster in Colorado. You should either learn to stay in the middle or retire. You are best suited to clean toilets or pick up manure in a pig pen. Money says you are too weak to acknowledge my displeasure in your 9 News report. James, donate to Word of Thanks. Have a great week.